Welcome to Research Roundup, where we're going to tackle a recent piece of research. Sometimes they're old. This happens to be one that's fairly hot off the presses. And I'll just turn it right over to Dr. MacBride to give us an overview and start the conversation.
Well, let's start with the article title. I Won't Let You Down: Transformational Leadership, Anticipated Guilt of Failure, and Follower Extra Work Effort.
Can you
Right? It's
make,
kind of a
yeah,
mouthful, but
English, yeah, in like,
in plain English, Dan,
yeah,
actually, when we
please.
were kind of getting ready before recording actually started, you said it beautifully. I'm actually going to turn it to
I
you.
did.
Yes. What did you
Okay.
say?
Um, Certain types of leadership can increase perceived risk of guilt later on, and that makes people work harder. It also makes them less healthy from a mental health standpoint, which may impact their work down the road. And this article really looks to encourage leaders to be more aware of the both short-term and long-term impacts. Or at least it does from when I read it.
Right. So at a really high level, right, this is important for leadership to understand. I think there's also an opportunity here for those of us who are working in spaces where we're experiencing what they call transformational leadership, right? We
Can you
may
define
be
can you define transformational leadership, please?
Transformational leadership is about when a CEO or an organization comes in and is really like shaking things up, doing things differently, kind of maybe even turning norms on their head a little
Hmm.
bit. And you find employees, I think, really excited about this kind of change, doing things different, right? We're creating major culture shifts. Dan, you have a look on your face.
Well, I can see employees be excited about the change, and now I get a little bit deeper understanding of where this article is coming from because change creates anxiety.
That's
And
what I'm taking. Yes.
yeah, and while they may be excited about the change, they also don't know what's coming next. And usually, I would assume that a transformational leader is going to be brought in when there is a need for transformation.
Correct. And I think some of the anxiety around that perception of change or that actual change is to some extent, we don't know the benchmarks and we're not being told what benchmarks we're being measured up against.
Hmm.
So, because I don't know, I just need to work my ass off and give
Right.
everything. And so, you see employees giving more, working longer hours, all of these kinds of things, which one would think, oh, this is so lovely. They're so loyal
It
and
is.
excited
No,
about
I mean,
this process. It is to their detriment, right? We create this imbalance in work and life and this anxiety around metrics and really a downturn in employees' mental health.
it is something I have seen that I find really interesting that there are some companies and industries that seem to, with intent, create some of that anxiety for their employees, with intent, create some of that uncertainty that will push people to work harder. And
Mhm.
they likely benefit from that because that anxiety makes them work harder, makes them more productive, makes them more get more shit done, which in the immediate is really good, could be really good for the company. So what's wrong with that?
Right. Well, you can't do that on the backs of your workforce and see
Why
their
not?
mental health decline because we already know that poor mental health in your employees actually in the long run hurts your company. It declines profits. I mean, we have data to show that your company does worse when your workforce is experiencing illness of like the mental health type. And of course, mental health problems also increase physical health illness. So your employee workforce is less well overall, pulling
Right.
in other research, right? Not this is beyond the scope of this
Absolutely.
particular article.
I could see,
So,
however, the temptation if things
right.
are not going great in a business and you need to demonstrate to shareholders, the board of directors, et cetera, you want to prove to them that you're turning things around. I could see the temptation behind creating some of this ambiguity that would create some of that anticipated guilt that might spur on profitability or productivity, potentially at the expense of. And we would hope that leaders would look at their corporation as a whole and say, we're looking for long-term change and for this company to thrive or this organization, this kind of other organizations, I'm assuming as well, nonprofits, et cetera. We want this organization to thrive, not just in the short run, but also for years and years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a vicious circleness to this because when you have employees who are feeling anxious and unsettled and they're working
Mhm.
harder, they begin to rely on their leaders more,
Right.
right? So now we have leadership being impacted in negative ways, right? And then it slows that growth. So really modulating growth, going upward, right? Engaging in
Mhm.
transformational leadership. This article is not suggesting that this is a whole cloth bad thing. It is
Right.
saying with some guardrails, watch the
So
language that you use, right? Um, not don't let us down, but let's all figure out a path toward a win here.
mhm.
What would feel like a win to you? That kind of thing. Making sure that if we miss a target, we're not guilting our workforce about this. We are, regrouping, addressing what was the miss, and then retooling, making sure that we are not asking our workforce to work these heroic hours and keep, and experience a wildly out of whack work-life balance.
Mhm. Yeah, and I also what I liked when I read the article or when I read a summary of the article, I'm going to be upfront here about that, um, is the idea that setting really clear goals and
Mhm.
measurable, attainable goals was associated with lower anxiety and higher long-term success in mental health. And this makes a lot of sense because we talk about this in other areas as well. If you create long-term, if you create clear goals for people that are measurable, attainable, et cetera, they succeed at higher levels and with lower levels of anxiety. So this makes intuitive sense given given what we know about other situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think this is really interesting work. I think it's really it can feel kind of like a surprise, but like you
Mhm.
said, when you really think about the mechanisms underneath it, maybe this isn't so shocking or revelatory in any way. Um, I think we are simply sitting here today once again asking organizations and corporations to be really thoughtful about how they make changes and the asks that they have of their employees and their workforce.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, thank you guys for unpacking that. And we'll be sure to include a direct link to the article itself. It is behind a paywall, but you can at least read the abstract and see some of the data there as well. And if you're like me, then you can acquire a copy by going through your local library and sending a request. So you can get the full copy that way.
Quick tip, by the way, anytime you see a journal article behind a paywall, you can reach out to the author and the author will supply you with a copy of it. They don't at no charge. Unless this is old information, Michael, and you want to correct me on that, or if there's a better way of getting it, but I've known that you can generally just like email the article, the person who wrote the article and they'll send you a copy.
I am really embarrassed to say that I have gone through the 23rd grade and I don't know that I've ever done that.
Oh, I didn't say I've done it.
Oh,
I just say that you can do that and
I
they
mean,
will
I
provide the
suppose I just
article
never
for you.
thought about it.
Yeah.
You just like blew my mind a little bit. I will
Well,
often tell people use your library as a free
yeah.
resource. If I recommend a book or something to a client, it never occurred to me that you could email the author and they would perhaps send you a
Authors,
copy of the article.
yeah, authors don't get a lot of. I mean,
Yeah. No,
the
you're right.
journal doesn't. Yeah, so they're happy to provide you with copies of their article in just about every case. Now, the problem, the library, you'll probably get it. You may get it quicker, especially if library has access to it, and you can just click, our like Michael did. However, if you what our Michael,
Or
our,
Michael.
our Michael,
Aw.
uh, I was getting you some like term of endearment, esteemed. But I couldn't on the fly come up with anything. So I just like paused there.
I will echo what Dan says. Yeah, authors are often very happy to share any of the research with you. It's often about finding a reliable email address to connect with them. And though they have allowed a journal or a database to publish their article, they do not benefit financially from it there at all. So
That's
it
that.
doesn't come
That's what
out
I
of
was
their
about
pocket.
I was about to say that, but I was afraid that my knowledge was out of date on that. Yeah, they don't get. They submit the journal article, it gets published, but they don't get any money out of that, and so they don't. They're happy to send you a copy of the article.
Yeah, they just want to disseminate the research, right? And the thing for us, I know we're down a little different path here, but the thing for us is finding this in a peer-reviewed journal is what adds power and weight to this kind of research, right? You can email anyone and talk to them about the research that they're doing, but once it's appearing in a peer-reviewed journal, this means that there's extra weight given because others in the field have looked at this research, have determined that the methodology was sound, that the conclusions are reasonable. Right? It's gone through this process, which is just, it's been vetted, as opposed to, you're emailing Hank at Hank's Boiler Repair about whatever research that they have recently done. I'm not disparaging Hank.
Do not throw shade on my curling team, Hank's Boiler Repair.
None whatsoever. I'm just suggesting perhaps if they have done research and it's not appearing in a peer-reviewed journal, I might question it. Not your curling team at all.
And just to be clear, the journals are not making it rich on these either. So I don't want to paint them at all as fat cats who are riding on the backs of authors by any
That
means.
is very
they are
Michael,
working.
that is very fair.
They're working hard to stay afloat in a lot of situations.
Sure, and they're often associated with professional organizations. And again, this is just one arm of what they do as a service to us in the profession.
I appreciate the correction, Michael, because I think I may have inadvertently implied that the journals are making a ton of money off these researchers, and no, they're running on a shoestring too. So,
for sure.
Well, thanks for bringing this to us, Michael. It was really interesting to think about.
Yeah, and I think the conversation afterwards was worth it as well. So thanks for exploring that as well. But cool. All right. Till next time.